Hi, welcome back to the podcast. We're excited that you're here with us. Today, I'm going to give you a real live example of when we had a meltdown that brewed over into the next day. And we're just going to go through what I did, how I helped my autistic son, and why that happens. Welcome to the Autism Diagnosis to Confident Mom podcast with Kira from Kira Brown Coaching. I'm a mom of neurospicy kids and a life coach. I'm here to share real tips and support to help you feel confident as a parent. Let's dive right in. It was fair week. We live an hour from a fair and we have animals at fair. My kids show pigs and steers. And so we take a camp trailer and we stay at fair. It's loud. It's busy. It's a totally new schedule. So as you can guess, my autistic child had some meltdowns, right? And he actually did really well this year. I think part of that was because he was is 8, and so he was able to participate. He had a pig, he had responsibilities to go do, which gave him a little bit of structure rather than just follow along and be bored. But it's Monday through Friday. By Thursday afternoon, I could tell a meltdown was brewing. It was on the verge. It was, let's get him to the camper so we can melt down at our own private place instead of in a public space where I didn't know what would happen, right? And so, and I could tell it was coming because he was wanting to buy something at the booth. He had his own money. It was $200. He didn't have that much money. And he was getting snappy at me and not wanting to repeat what he said when I didn't hear him. Didn't really have a whole lot to say. What he did have to say was kind of coming across like he had an attitude. So we went back to the camper, and he did not want to be there. He did not want to go back and look at a different vendor to see if they had something different. He didn't know what he wanted, and he didn't want to talk it through. He just didn't know. And so I simply put on a movie that I know that he likes. And I even put on the movie, and he came to me and he's like, instead of the movie, can I play on the iPad for 20 minutes? And I said, sure, when so-and-so is done with their turn, you can have a turn. And he was like, never mind. And I was like, okay. I also was telling him that later on in the day, we had it's called a stock grower social, but all of the people in the area that raise livestock for a profession get together and they eat dinner and have a social at fair. And he was like, I don't want to go. And I was like, that's fine. You don't have to go. But he didn't want to go to that. He didn't want to do anything. He ended up sitting down and watching the movie and kind of calming down. So that gave him an hour and a half of time to just sit there and chill. After it was over, he decided he did want to go to the dinner with us, which is fine. That's great. He found a friend to play with at the dinner. But just giving him some time. And it wasn't totally quiet because he was watching a movie, but nobody was talking to him. Nobody was demanding things of him. Does that make sense? Do you see the difference? To just leave him be. And I didn't isolate him. I didn't make him go somewhere off by himself, but just let him be and to calm for an hour and a half. Simmered simmered him down, right? So we went to the dinner. He did great at the dinner. He played with a buddy that was there. And then we went to, it was actually Mark Wills if you're into 90s country, but we went to a concert after. And he did okay for a while. And then he was down playing in the sandbox with his sister and her friend, and something, I don't know what happened. He never would tell me what happened, but he didn't want to be there anymore, and he just wanted to go home and go to bed. And I couldn't let him go home and go to bed alone. And so he was upset. It's loud here, right? Like, he was on the verge of a meltdown earlier. We calmed him down. It's resurfacing. Do you see how the same thing is festering here? So he starts crying. So I just pick him up and squeeze him tight on my lap and give him deep pressure. And I do that for about 10 minutes, and then he's ready to sit there and watch the concert. The concert ends. We finished the last 20 minutes of the concert or whatever, and we go home, and he goes to bed, and he wakes up the next morning, and you can tell it's still kind of brewing. But he's doing okay. I mean, all things considered, I'm like, you can tell we were up late. You can tell all of these things are happening. And so we, on Friday morning, we pack up the camper and we send it home with my husband. And then he comes back and we have the sale where we sell the animals that they've raised in the early afternoon. And so I send the kids to the bathroom to shower after they bathe their animals. They're all gross now. They need a shower so they look respectable. And I send him into the shower, and he's not coming out, and he's not coming out, and he's not coming out. And before this, we had discussed, when you get done with your shower, you're going to come to this table, because I was sitting at a table. It was right next to the showers, but it was on the back side. You're going to come to this table, and we're going to meet there, okay? And he's like, okay, I'll meet you at this table, right? And we verified, and he said yes. So he's not coming out, and he's not coming out, he's not coming out. And he's usually a very fast showerer, like 5 minutes or less. Sometimes I wonder how well he soaps, but he doesn't stink. So I'm like, okay, perfect. Anyways, so his sisters finally come out of the shower, and I'm like, did you see your brother? No. So I went looking for him. He had gone to the car, which was also right by the shower, but he was sitting at the car, and he was upset because he couldn't get into the locked car to put his stuff down. So I went over there, and I was trying to discuss with him that we had arranged to meet at the table, not at the car. And I'm sorry that he's been standing there for a while. I said, I was worried about you. I'm glad you're okay. And we put his stuff in the car. I said, let's go figure out what you want to eat. And by this point, he was shut down. In his mind, even though he knew we were supposed to meet at the table, in his mind, he had to put his stuff away before he could come meet me at the table. It never occurred to him to change his thinking to say, go get mom at the table and come back, right? So he was upset that he couldn't get in the car, so he couldn't come to the table, and everything did not go as planned in his mind. Even though that was not the plan, that was the plan he had in his mind. So I tried to take him over to order some food, and I asked him, what does he want to eat? I don't know. Okay, so I try giving fewer choices, because sometimes when they get dysregulated, choices are too much. So he doesn't know between two things, between a hot dog and a cheeseburger. He doesn't know. So I said, okay, I see it's rough for you to choose right now. I'll just pick for you. And he doesn't say anything. So I order him a hot dog. And we get his hot dog and we're sitting at the table and he's refusing to eat. And at this point, I am thinking, this is not going to go well. Like, he needs to step into a sale ring in 30 minutes. He has not eaten. He is shutting down. How am I going to handle this? Right? Lucky for me, his dad came back. And his dad is a lot more patient than I am at times. At this point, I am beginning to lose my own patience. And I'm like, you have to eat. You have to eat. And he's refusing to eat. You can't force him to eat. And so his dad tried to talk it through with him. And his dad was just like, okay. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, this is not going to work. He has to eat. He has to eat, and he has to eat now. We're on a time crunch. We have to get him functioning again. He can't be hungry and shut down. And his dad was just like, just leave him be. It's okay. Just give him some time. And I'm like, okay. Not what my instincts say, but okay. So we went with it. And he eventually was like, why didn't you let me choose what I want to eat like everybody else? So we tried to talk through that. And once again, he still didn't have the listening skills. That capacity was shut down. So he didn't understand why he didn't get to choose. And that's fine. We can circle back to that later. But we allowed him to we said, if you want to tell us what you want, we'll go get you something else. His dad had eaten his hot dog at this point. And eventually he said, can I have a smoothie from the food truck over there? And yes, let's go get it for you. And he ate it. So he was not the first to go through the sale ring. His sister actually needed to go first. And so we go into the building where they're doing it, and I am watching so I can find out who the buyer is and what they sold for and that kind of thing. Their dad's helping with the animals behind the scenes. And there is a quiet corner, and he sits down in the quiet corner and he just starts drawing. And I just leave him there. I let him be. I can see him. I know he's safe. I know he's not having a hard time, but we give him some space, right? And he's just drawing. I'm like, okay. I go to check on him at one point, and he said, for my thank you letter, can I draw a picture and write, thanks for buying my pics? I said, yes. That would be fantastic to put that in your thank you card. So he's drawing this picture, and it's an amazing picture, and he's focused, and he's zoned in, and he's ignoring the noise around him. He's being entertained because he was getting bored, and I don't know about your kiddos, but when mine gets bored, that's when we have a lot of problems. So he drew until it was time to go get his pig ready and to take it through the sale ring. And he did great going through the sale ring. He did great talking to the buyer, getting their name and their information. But he still was not 100%. Like, he masked for that activity, but he wasn't 100%. And I could tell he wasn't. Because he was shorter in his responses. He wasn't open to negotiating. Those are just a few of the ways I could tell, but he was doing what he needed to do. So that was good. So then after we sell the animals, we have to clean their stalls out, take everything home, right? This includes shoveling shavings. This was a perfect thing for him to need to do. First of all, he was willing to do it because it was his project and it needed to be done. And he wanted to do his own. So that was good. But this is what we call heavy work. So he's shoveling and lifting a heavy shovel full of pine shavings, pine bedding, and he's putting them in a wheelbarrow, and he's taking the wheelbarrow and he's dumping them in the dumpster. It was like a dumpster, but they don't just put it in the landfill. They do compost it or whatever. But that's beside the point. This heavy lifting was what he needed. This was what his body was craving. So I just shared this story with you now that you say that you have like a step-by-step play of our meltdown. But I just wanted to give you an example of how if we have a meltdown, sometimes we can skim the top off of it. Sometimes we can calm it. That might be a better way to say it. Sometimes we can calm it down and keep going with what has to be done. Sometimes a meltdown is unavoidable. So, like on Thursday, he was going to have a meltdown, and we were able to calm him down enough that he could function for the activities that he needed to function for. At the concert, he was beginning to have a meltdown again, and some deep pressure calmed him down again. But do you guys see how it didn't completely get rid of the problem? We didn't address, is he hungry? Is he tired? Is he overstimulated? Does he have connection? We didn't address those things. I mean, we did to a degree, right? Like, is he overstimulated? We gave him some time alone. With your sensory stuff, he needed some deep pressure. I gave him that at the concert. There was some connection in that hug, that deep hug. But we didn't totally address the fact. Like, he didn't get to bed early to get extra sleep. We were still at fair doing fair things, right? So we imagine it like a boiling pot. We took the meltdown that was coming to a boil. It was about to boil over, and we turned the heat down, and now it's just simmering underneath the surface, okay? The meltdown didn't ever completely go away. It was still there Friday, even after he slept, right? So sometimes it's not, what can I do to get rid of this meltdown? Sometimes it's, what can I do to turn down the heat on this meltdown so that we can get the things done that need to happen. Because meltdowns don't always happen at a time when you can quit. Sometimes you have other kids that need things. Sometimes, I don't know, if you're like me and you live an hour from the grocery store, when you're in the middle of the grocery store, you can't just leave your cart and come back in a couple hours. Like, sometimes you have to finish what you're doing in order to get them home. And so, what can you do to simmer the meltdown? What can you do to lower the heat? I mean, yes, ideally it's good to turn off the heat, but then also know that a lot of times it just simmers, it just lowers the heat so it's not boiling over, but they're on edge. And that's normal too. Like, once we've had a meltdown, we're a lot easier to trigger another one. And it's not a behavioral thing. It's still their fight or flight in their brain. Their nervous system is more sensitive. So I just wanted to give those examples to you so that you would understand. During all of this, I also used my favorite phrase. You've probably heard it before if you've listened to me at all, but he's not giving me a hard time. He's having a hard time. And that helped me to keep my calm. That's That's a phrase that my life coach gave me to help me. He's not having a hard he's not giving me a hard time, he's having a hard time. Then I don't take it personally. I am a little more curious on what I can do to help him. You're doing better than you think you are, Mama. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening to Autism Diagnosis to Confident Mom. If this episode helped you feel a little more seen or supported, please take a moment to like, follow, or subscribe to the podcast. And if you know another parent who needs to hear this, share it with them too. We're all in this together. You're doing better than you think, Mama. You've got this.